What's going on, everyone? It's Peter Byram here, and today we are with another one of our amazing members of the Next Level Photography Training Program. Today we have Kayla Palm with us of K Eileen Photography. Kayla, so excited to have you here and learn a little bit more about your story, your experience, all that good stuff. So why don't we just kick this off by you telling us a little bit about you, your business, how long you've been shooting for.
Okay. Hi guys, I'm Kayla. I live in Iowa, the middle of a cornfield. I have been doing photography a little over a year now. I've had a camera pretty much my whole life, but I didn't start a business until 2019. In 2019, I was still working full time. I was a chiropractic assistant for 2 years, a little over 2 years, and I really decided I wanted to be my own boss. So I decided to sell the camera that I had, which was a little Nikon, and buy a Mark IV just straight out of the gate. And looked at my bank account and was like, either this has to work or this has to sell. So I started doing everything I could. I started taking photos of all my friends, all my family, to just get word out that I had started a business. And I have a very supportive friend group and stuff that shared all my stuff, so it helped for a while, and I kind of felt like I hit a little bit of a plateau, but I ended up leaving my full-time job in March of this year, right before COVID hit, and then COVID kind of took a decent toll on everything, as it probably did with a lot of photographers. And then I got added on Facebook by Peter. I don't even remember how long ago that was. And so I stopped his stuff for a while before I added him back, and ended up seeing that he was helping photographers during COVID. And I wasn't making money. So I messaged him and said, please don't tell me anything, but I want to know what you do because I'm interested. And we had a little chat and we started working together.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. So like what actually ended up piquing your interest? Because like I added you as a friend, but
Yeah.
then like were you skeptical?
Oh, 100%.
Why
I get so
why?
many ads. Well, I get so many ads a day, and it's always multi-level marketing. Hey, girly, buy my leggings. Hey, girly, do this. And I was like, no, I don't know what he's selling, but I don't want it. So I didn't add you back right away, and then I just followed your page, and then I saw that you had all these posts about other photographers that signed on, and I was like, okay, whatever, and I just ignored it. And then I saw a couple videos that you had posted of people making like 50K in a month, and I was like, I'd like to make that this year. And then my interest was piqued, so I added you back. Then I started seeing, I followed you first before I added you back. Then I started seeing all of the posts about so and so made this much money, been working with me for 2 weeks, booked 6 weddings, and I was like, okay. So then I messaged you.
Yeah. Yeah, it was hilarious because your first message was like, I don't want to be sold anything, but I'm just curious. Like,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, so okay. Like let's go back to before we even started working together. And like what was the biggest challenge that like specific challenge you were biggest problem you were trying to solve in your business?
I think it was mostly trying to get inquiries because I felt like once I had people, which ended up being lots of friends and families and referrals from friends
Yeah.
and families, they, one, because they knew somebody I knew, they wanted a discount. And so I wasn't making much on what I was selling, but I needed to sell something or I wasn't going to make any money. And two, my inquiries just were way down. So I got my website redone. Website was great. I felt like my work was pretty good, and I just was not getting the inquiries.
Got it. Yeah. So this is a common thing. Like, what was the main way that you were getting inquiries before?
Friends of friends
Just
or
referrals, word of mouth.
referrals, and there's lots of different photography pages like in different areas. There's one in Des Moines, there's one in Minneapolis that people would post, hey, referral here, drop your websites. Every photographer in the group would drop their website. That photographer would email it to the inquiry, and then the inquiry would go through those. So my name was getting out to more people, but I was also in a pool of 50 other photographers trying to get the wedding.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you never wanted to do like Wedding Wire, The Knot, or anything like that?
No.
Why not?
They called me a lot. Honestly, it's mostly because they email me and call me all the time. And I was like, you're annoying. I do not want to work with you. And I also knew from different photography forums that people that were in those weren't getting things that they wanted. It was expensive to be in it, and it just seemed like a lot of extraness, and I just wasn't about it.
Interesting. Okay. So, yeah, so your big challenge was wanting to get more inquiries, right?
Yeah.
Which is a pretty common thing. And so, like, what were you doing on a day-to-day basis to try to get more inquiries?
Honestly, I was so busy while I was still working that I felt like the only time I would be messaging people back, I'd miss them. Because I was at work all day, I'd get an inquiry when I couldn't have my phone until 1, 2 o'clock at lunch. And then after that, by the time I responded to them, they already booked somebody else. So, repeat the question. What was the challenge?
No, like, so, yeah, no. So, what were you doing on like a day-to-day basis to try to get more inquiries?
Okay. I was waiting
Just
for
waiting.
people to, yeah, pretty much. I was waiting for people to come to me. Or I was seeing people that I personally knew get engaged and be like, hey, if you need a wedding photographer, let me know. Like, just left it at that. And I'd get left on red all the time. All the time.
Yeah. Yep. Totally. Okay. So then we connected, right? We hopped on a call. And do you remember what we talked about? Like, do you remember what ultimately made you be like, all right, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to take the leap?
Remy?
Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay. What do you want to know?
Well, like, because it's interesting. Like, you know, you have an amazing story. You have amazing results. And we're going to get into all of that in just a second here. But I think what even preceded that is that you had this really, like, strong why.
Yeah.
Right?
I did.
So can you share a little bit about that?
Yes. So I had a dog, and she was not just any dog. She was my baby. And we traveled a lot, and she was the most photogenic thing in the world. So she is what ultimately made me. She really was. It was kind of insane. She was very human-like. And I started getting into photography, and she would be my traveler, and she helped me gain a ton of followers because she was just so cute. And I decided when I was working and doing photography, I was gone all the time. And I decided I wanted to be my own boss so I could be with her during the day and then be gone during the wedding day. And she could be with her parents or whatever, at daycare with her buddies, whatever. Well, when I stopped working and COVID hit and I was with her constantly and I felt like I'd kind of given up on the business side because everything had slowed down. And then partway through COVID, she got hit by a car and I lost her. Oh, you're going to get me again. And I lost her and I kind of lost myself. Dang it, Peter. And I was mad because I felt like everything that I had kind of worked for to like give her a better life, I had given up on because I lost her. So I wanted to. No, sorry.
No. Don't apologize.
This is how you got me though, 100%. I decided that I wasn't going to let all the hard work to get my business off the ground go to waste because she passed.
Yep.
And I wanted to do it for her
Mm-hmm.
and like create the life that I had promised her that I couldn't give her anymore. So
Wow.
That's how you got me.
Wow. Yeah, and I think that's exactly what you've done.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I
So,
think I have surpassed, I've doubled what I made last year. I've over doubled what I made last year, this year, but I surpassed what I made last year in 1 month this year.
it's unbelievable. Yeah. It's incredible. And I think I said to you, like, when we had a strategy session, like, we talked about, we're going to do this for Remy, you know?
That
And
sounds like okay, sold.
yeah, and look at you. You've done it.
Yeah.
And, so, like, for people listening, what it's literally been 30 days since we started working together. You joined Next Level at the end of July 27th. Today's August 27th. What have you made in revenue this month?
About 22,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in all of 2019 in your business, you made 17K.
Yep.
Okay, so that's an amazing transformation, right? And it's a testament to you and your drive and, the kind of entrepreneur that you are. But I want to get into a little bit more of the details on how you did that. Okay, so you joined Next Level, right? You signed up. Then what happened?
I started watching all the trainings, like day and night, every time I was in the car, when I was in the shower, when I was getting ready, all the time. I was on the treadmill for a lot of this. And to be honest with you, I don't even think I made it all the way through all of them. I pretty much stopped at 3 because it was working for me. Like, I just took everything that I learned about, like, organic interactions, and I'm already pretty bubbly and talkative. I can make friends with a wall. Like, it's not hard for me. But I wasn't utilizing it in the way that I needed it to be.
Yes. So it's like we made some tweaks to what you were doing, right? Mm-hmm. And then it just kind of like opened up the floodgates. So, okay, you mentioned organic, right? So Next Level is a 6-week training program. We talk about paid methods. We talk about organic methods to generate inquiries. You haven't even gotten to the paid stuff. No. Like, you haven't even run a single Facebook ad. And you made 22 grand. This is what people don't understand, Like,
that's when I first started, like, even just watching videos of other people, I was like, oh, it's because they put all this money into ads. And then I started doing, like, just talking to people, and I was like, oh, okay, this is way easier than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, but, okay, so you started talking to people, and in other words, you started connecting with brides on social media, right? And you would, like, generate interest. And I remember...
I know where you're going.
So I remember you being like, I just messaged them, I just talked to them, and you were like, tell me a little bit about that. Like, what were you feeling?
I did not want to add people on Facebook. I did not want to add people I didn't know on Facebook because I get added by so many girls selling something or guys that are just like interesting human beings. And I was like, I don't want to be one of those people. Like, granted, my profile picture I had changed, like, recently, before I think it was before I even started working with you, to a picture of me in the camera. So it's very obvious that I was a photographer. And then I was like, okay, this isn't that scary, so I'm not, like, selling them socks. Like, so I remember messaging you going, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. And you're like, just add someone. And I did, and I was like, add to all these people. And then I just was messaging them, and it wasn't like, I wasn't being like, hey, I'm a photographer for your wedding, like I probably did in the past. It was more of, hey, congrats on your engagement, or I'm not gonna lie, I messaged a girl with a dog in her profile, and I was like, we need to be friends. That was like my first intro message. And then I just started talking about dogs, because that's obviously my passion. And a lot of people, they may not be as obsessed as I was, but a lot of people were pretty passionate about their dogs. So they were fine talking to me. And then it trickled into, oh, how are you? What's new in your life? And even if this is like 3 days later, then they would be like, oh, what do you do for work? I'm like, oh, I'm a photographer. And they're like, oh, I'm getting married next November. I'm in need of a photographer. And you're like, great. I'd love to talk to you sometime. When would be a good time to call you? Sometimes I'd get blown off. More times than not, though, I'd already had a conversation with them. And they're like, great, let's talk today at 2.
So this is really interesting. There's a couple of different things here. So, first of all, people weren't, like, bothered.
No, surprising. Some happen, but I think they also have been bombarded by other photographers. Like, these are the ones that would post in, like, buy and trade, looking for a photographer, and they have 200 responses.
Right.
They're overwhelmed, which rightfully so. You're not going to click through 200 websites, probably. But then some people would message them, but I would add them first. And if they added me back, I would message them.
Right.
Because they're already interested to see, because they've seen my profile picture, and if they like the way that that's edited and that's done, which I had the photo taken of me, but then I edited it, if they like the coloring, they're going to add me back and be like, hey, really like this. And my Facebook and like all of my, whatever you call like the 9 photos in the corner.
Like the featured, yeah.
Featured photos. They're all photography photos. They're not of me. Well, one might be, but it's like professional photos that I've taken or that I've had taken of me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is interesting because this is like a common thing. I know a lot of people with this particular like tactic. Like a lot of people are like, but I'm gonna be annoying people or something, right? Like we're always afraid that that's the case, but for the most part, people are happy.
Yeah, you just kind of get over it. You get snagged once or twice, you get ghosted, but I mean, I've been ghosted a lot in my life, so by a random person doesn't really bother me.
Yeah. Okay, so now how did you? Because you were explaining that there was a lot of you were feeling, but before you started doing this, you were feeling kind of like there was a lot of like fear, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like around it. And so I know a lot of people get hung up here, right? So how did you overcome that?
Looking at the investment side of it, and I was like, this needs to pay off for myself. Like, I have student loan debt, I have car debt, I have other debt, a business loan, and I was like, this has to work. Like, I don't have another choice. This has to work. You need to tie your shoes and just do it, or you're going to continue to sit in this debt. And since then, I've probably paid over 30% of it off, if not more than that.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah. Phenomenal. And it goes back to the running thing. Like, I just kept telling myself, honestly, every time I was like afraid to do something, I pictured your face on my computer screen going, you just gotta do it for Remy. And I was like, okay.
Yep. You got out of your comfort zone in a big way. Mm-hmm. And on the other side of that was like everything you wanted.
Yep.
It's such a beautiful example, you know? So, yeah. So you were just committed. Like, it sounds like you were just like, I'm committed. I'm just going to go all in. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to get it done. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. And so, like, you've been traveling around, like, shooting as well, right? Like,
yeah.
So what's that been like?
It's, other than getting altitude sickness, it's been fun. I really like to travel for photos, and I had found, like, before COVID hit, I had found this workshop out in Denver that I was like, I guess it really wasn't a workshop. It was more of a style shoot. But I wanted to get into the travel market, and the only way to get into the travel market is to travel. Like, I mean, other than kind of providing your services, but a lot of people, if you start reaching out to Colorado people, they want to see Colorado work. So I'm like, okay, this is supposed to be my year of like boom, 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 coast to coast. Everything was planned, and then pandemic hit.
Mm.
But I still was like, you know what, I'm going to make it happen anyway. So they rescheduled the style shoot from April to this year, to this past month. And I decided, you know what, I'm still going to go, and I'm going to find a bunch of people and just fill my time with shots. Because if I can post Colorado stuff for the next 6 months, if it's all from 1 week, like, that's going to open up a market of Colorado. So I did the style shoot, and then I was on Instagram swiping, and like a bunch of people that I had gone to high school with were out. They had just moved there. And I was like, great, meet me in Estes Park at this time. And they were like, free photos? Sweet. And I was like, cool, see you then. And then they just met me there, and I did a bunch of shots for them. And then I also, during the pandemic, a lot has happened during the pandemic. I met a boy, oddly enough, from Michigan. How we met during the pandemic, that's another story. So I've been going to Michigan a lot to visit him. So I tapped into that market because that's easy. I'm already there.
Mm-hmm.
So I had multiple shoots there last week.
Yeah, so this is interesting because I know a lot of people want to shoot in other places, right? Mm-hmm. Like people want to, like everybody wants to travel, they want to do destination work, all that kind of stuff. So how do you network and set up shoots in other locations?
To be honest with you, my network was huge before I did this. And part of that's just because of my personality. I'm from Minnesota. I went to Iowa State. A bunch of people that I met at Iowa State all went around the country. A bunch of people I went to high school with, one's in Portland, one's in Florida. I got a friend in Boston. After college, I moved to North Carolina, South Carolina, where I lived in both places are beach towns, so everybody disperses after a year or two. So everyone I met there is now across the country. Everyone in North Carolina lives across the country. So I just knew so many people in so many different places. I could probably go to every state and have somewhere to stay. So my network was already pretty big. So then when I know that person has a big network, I'm going to do a free shoot for them because they're going to share it, and all of their Facebook friends are going to see it.
Smart. Yeah. And so I think like one of the takeaways for other people listening with this is like, you know, you might be surprised who's already in your network, right?
I didn't even know these two couples from last week were in Colorado. Right. I thought they still lived in Minnesota, and I don't scroll Instagram often. My biggest thing is pretty much Facebook, but I happened to scroll, and they happened to move there 6 hours before they posted that photo, and I was there 2 days later.
And so just by being, you know, active on social media, seeing people, and then, you know, taking that step to engage with them directly, mm-hmm. not waiting for them to come to you necessarily, and you're setting up shoots in other places. Yeah. Awesome. So, okay, there's something else I want to talk about with you. And, you know, we've talked about like the lead generation side of things. So, you know, you were able to find brides on social media. You were able to connect with them. You were able, then you added people, right? Like you said, you took that step, you started adding people, you started messaging them, right? And you would just talk to people like you were talking to a friend.
Yeah.
Like not trying to sell them, just having a conversation. And then they would just organically start asking you.
Sometimes I bring it up. In the last 5 I probably brought it up. It was like either message them after they added me back and was like, hey girl, congrats on your engagement. If you need any help with, or you have any questions about the planning side of it or need help with the timeline, let me know. And they were like, oh my gosh, that'd be great. And then they're like, do you do engagement sessions? And I'm like, well, my engagement sessions are included in my wedding packages. Boom, sold. But then when I like talk to them though, I figure out what it is that they want. Because I'm like, I also, like, one of my main messages to people is, you know, I custom price based off of what it is that you need. Because some people need a second shooter because they have 400 people coming to their wedding. Well, not during the pandemic, they don't, but maybe in 2 years.
Right, 2 years.
And 2 years away, which I have 3 booked in 2022. So I just figured out what it was that they wanted, and I offered them a main price, and I was like, and I'll take off this amount of money. Because sometimes engagement session is a little bit different because people are like, oh, good, I don't have to pay for an engagement session separate. Sometimes people, if you're like, oh, I'll give you a free second shooter, that doesn't mean anything to somebody who's not in the photography world. And to be honest, I personally like to shoot weddings alone. I prefer to work that way. But if you're offering them something that they don't know about, they're like, oh, I don't really think I need that. What else can you offer me? So then if you're like, you get this, and I'll take this amount off, they're like, oh, I get to save money. Instead of them, like, trying to figure out what they can get from you if they don't utilize one of the free things that you offered. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So this is okay. This is good. So let's backtrack for a second. Okay, because you're a closer, right? And so that's what I want to talk to you about, because I think like a lot of people could learn a lot from this. So, okay, you're starting to talk like, hey, by the way, if you need help with like planning, like happy to help, you know, and it's just this attitude. When you come to people like that, like people can tell, like, oh, they're just genuinely offering, and you feel it and it comes across, right? So then they're like, yeah, that sounds amazing. So would you then get them on a call, or what would happen there?
Sometimes I leave it at that for a little bit, and I watch their page and see what they're doing. Like, sometimes if they're like, booked a venue, or picked a date, or whatever, I'll message them again after they already respond. But I typically, if they respond to me and I don't want to be super salesy, I'll just like heart their message back. Like, I won't respond to it. And then I'll wait and watch what they're doing. And then a lot of people are like, I need a recommendation for a photographer. And I'm like, hello? And I just slide back in. Like, hey, I have specials going on. Let's see what I can do for you.
Nice. Okay. And then what?
Then they're like, yeah, I'd love to hear some of your specials. Could you send me a pricing guide? And I say, well, which I do have a pricing guide, I really do, but I don't like to send it because it's like, oh, here you go, I'm too busy to talk to you. Which is, I am busy, and it is hard to sometimes find times to talk to people. But I prefer to be at my desk when I do talk to people, because like, this was from a call yesterday. Can you see that?
Damn.
Like, this, my whole entire note, like, her family's going to Hawaii. Like, I want to know that, because maybe they want to do engagement session in Hawaii. Boom. I get to travel. They get an engagement session while they're on a family trip. Let's add in family photos. Like, I take notes on pretty much everything that they say. I am not a linear organized person, so it's like all over the board. But I just listen to what they're saying, and then I kind of like put in or fit it in where I can, where it makes sense, and it's not like, hey, I'm a photographer, hire me. It's out of the loop. I don't like to do that.
Yeah, I usually make the analogy that like doing that is kind of like walking into a bar, walking up to a stranger, getting down on one knee, and being like, hey, will you marry me? They're going to be like, you need to be institutionalized. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what most people do. That's how most people think about the sales process.
Yeah.
It sounds silly, but that's how most people think. They're like, hey, want to buy my thing? It's like, dude, I don't even know you. I don't even know you. And it doesn't mean that they're not going to buy. It's just, there's a sales process. There's different things, different stages people have to go through. They have to feel like they know, like, and trust you. And that's kind of why we do things the way we do. So now, okay, but you're getting them on a phone call, ultimately, right? And why? Why not just send them the pricing guide and keep your fingers crossed and then get upset when they ghost?
Because they can't hear you. Like, they can't interpret what you're saying in the tone that you're saying it. And they can't, like, for example, I've had, I don't know how many calls, but one yesterday, she was like, like, I'm really glad you didn't just send me the pricing guide because, like, they don't even have a date yet. They're picking between a couple dates or spring of 2022. And she's like, well, I will let you know within the next week, like, we're going to have a date and I'm going to talk to a couple other photographers. And I'm like, that's fine. Like, you need to find someone that fits your day and fits your personality. Because if you're a really outgoing person and you hire a photographer that's really quiet and your groomsmen are like wrestling each other outside of the reception hall, she's not going to want to capture that because she's not going to want to be involved in it. Like, does that make sense?
Yes.
You want to fit a personality to your photographer, to you and your wedding party. Mm-hmm. Because I've done a couple weddings of really shy people, and I have a really hard time working with them. I just do, because I'm super weird, and I'm loud, and some people find that annoying. But that's how I find my clients too, though, is I listen to them on the phone, and if they're like, oh yeah, or super quiet, I'm like, you know what? I have another option for you. It would be a cheaper option, an associate shooter, or I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm the best fit for you, but here are 5 referrals. I don't like to go that route, but if I don't feel like I fit with a bride, I won't take it.
Yeah, so this is massive because, like, there's a couple of things to this. I think when this consultative approach to selling that we talk about, where it's like, is it a fit? Is it not a fit? You don't get like upset if somebody isn't a good fit, right? Like, because you just know that that's going to happen sometimes. And this is kind of what I refer to as like the attitude of a professional. It's like you don't get like down and like create a story about how nobody's booking or, I always get ghosted. You're just like, okay, hey, we're not a great fit. Let's get you redirected to somebody else who is. The other thing is it comes from an attitude of abundance, right? So when you know how to generate calls, you don't worry as much. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely don't feel as worried about it. I mean, there are specific brides that I'm like, I'm going to give them a discount because I want them. Like, I want them bad. And there's one for, I don't even remember what month the wedding is off the top of my head, but I was way out of budget. Like, way out of budget. But I counter offered and was like, okay, well, I heard you say that you only have, they're getting married on a steamboat. And I was like, heck yeah, I want to be there. I'm like, I heard you say that you don't have the boat that long and this and that. So what if we fit it into a 6-hour package and this and that? I also offer booking gifts, which I give like a month to 2 months out from the wedding. So I like use that as an incentive. And I'm like, I have really cool gifts. And this bride was like, you know what? If you ever quit photography, you should do sales. And I said, girl, photography is sales. And she's like, well, you're good at it. And I was like, I know. And then she waited a week or two, talked to hubby, and I just kept like dropping photos from weddings that I did in between the time that we talked, like my most epic photos from the day. And I was like, this could be you. This could be you. And then she ended up calling me and was like, okay, we're booking you. I'm not telling you how much it costs. So she paid in full. And I offer a little bit of a discount if people pay in full up front.
Yeah, that's something we talked about, right?
And it works like a charm.
Yep. And it's not even a big discount, just a little something, and then they'll pay the whole thing. You get all the cash up front. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so one of the other things that I'm kind of hearing right now is like, there's this like, it's like this instinct that you have where like when you see somebody that you want, you're like, we're going to make this work. We're going to make this work. Like, we're going to do a deal, like whatever, right? And then also sending them, not in like an annoying, badgering, pushy sort of way, but like in a fun, playful way. Like, oh my God, like look how fun this would be. Wouldn't this be fun? Yeah. Love that.
And it's you, but you're a little bit indecisive. And like, she loved it. But the only reason I felt comfortable doing that is because I got her on a video call. We talked it was supposed to be 10 minutes, and it was pushing an hour. And it was, like, about everything. Like, where we grew up, like, yada, yada. Like, I connected with her, and she was like, I really want you, but I gotta talk to hubby. And I was like, bring hubby on. Like, I'll meet hubby. And then, for them specifically, I am sending them a gift card to, like, their favorite restaurant. That was one of the incentives that I did. And it will be a big gift card. But I, like, texted her, what's your favorite restaurant? And she sent me back, like, some sushi place in Clive, Iowa. And I said, great. And then she responded and said, hubby wants to know if you're taking us there next week. And it was just, like, it was really cute and funny. So I'm going to, like, tie that in on their wedding day. And, like, bring them something from that on their wedding day. Because then they're like, wow, she remembered that conversation we had over a year ago.
Yeah, that stuff goes a long way, for sure.
That stuff goes a long way.
And then they're going to tell their friends about you, and yeah. And it just compounds. Exactly. Okay, cool. So let's say right now there's another photographer that is watching this that isn't yet, working with us, and they're listening to this interview. Why would you recommend to that person that they join Next Level and start working with us?
Well, I mean 22K in 1 month. Like, I think it kind of speaks for itself. Like, but it does take work. Like, if I wasn't as outgoing as I am, it wouldn't have worked as well for me. But you have to put yourself in an uncomfortable position to grow. Mm-hmm. And I've known that, and I think I had that experience firsthand because I decided when I graduated college, I've always had an itch to just experience something new. I went to Italy as a freshman in college. I lived in the Carolinas, but there were a lot of things that pushed me towards the Carolinas, but I was like 5 and told my dad, I'm going to live in South Carolina one day. And he's like, you've never even been there. And I was like, I know that it's cool. And he's like, okay. I graduated college, and I literally packed my car. Like, I had zero plan. Job lined up for 4 or 5 months. And my dad's like, what the hell are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know, but it's going to work out. And he's like, okay, I'm driving out there with you. And I moved in with 75-year-olds that I didn't know. And I'm going to visit them in a month and a half. Like, now we're family. They can't get rid of me. So I think my perspective is a little bit different. Just because I already knew you have to put yourself in an uncomfortable position to grow. I moved out there. I didn't even take Remy with me when I moved. She stayed with my parents, and I was so uncomfortable. And I made new friends, and I stayed out there for 2 years, and then I ended up coming back.
Mm-hmm. But so I think that this is really like an important lesson for everybody at home listening, that like in life, whenever you want to get something that you've never had before, you have to be willing to do something that you've never done, right? And by nature, that's going to be uncomfortable, right? Yeah. And so it sounds like you just kind of have this, you've adopted this attitude of, I'm just going to take the leap, and I'm going to deal with it. I'm going to make it work. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, cool. Now, you've seen, the other people in Next Level. You've seen some of the challenges. You've been in the community for about a month now. You've seen some of the challenges that other people go through. What would your number one piece of advice be for other members in Next Level?
I want to say just do it. Like, I feel, and this goes for all of my photography friends that are like, I'm just not getting inquiries. I'm not traveling that much. I'm not, just do it. Like, just make yourself do it. You want to get a shoot in Colorado? Go to Colorado. There are cheap ways to make it happen. But with business, you are going to have to sacrifice some money to do it. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that. I bought a Mark IV on a $1,600 a month income. Not my smartest move I've ever done. And it took a while to pay off. But I knew I had to invest in order to make money. So I invested up front a lot, which a lot of photographers are like, you are nuts. And was I nuts for a year? Yeah, I was. And then when I went to do this, like, I was already in debt. I didn't want to there was no way I wanted to invest that much money. But I just kept watching what was going on and watching other people do it. And I was like, why can't that be me? Like, why can't I do that?
Yeah.
And
definitely.
it's because you're holding yourself back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. You're holding yourself back. So you see people doing that.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who maybe doesn't feel as outgoing? What would your advice be to that person?
I was always told fake it till you make it growing up. And like, especially like during college and stuff, my classes I hated. My dad was always like, fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it. And I was like, how do you do that? Like, how do you, I don't understand how to do that. And I mean, there are days, especially after Rennie died, did I want to go to a shoot? Did I want to go to a wedding? No. Like, I don't even brush my hair on normal days. Like, this is the best I've looked in like 2 years. But you just fake it till you make it. And that's easier said than done. And I know that. And for somebody that's really shy, just start practicing talking to people. Like, talk to people everywhere you go. I've been talking to people since I was 2. Just random people all over the place. I mean, a lot of people, like, this is going to sound also kind of weird, like, a lot of people don't like to talk to homeless people because they're, like, scared of them. I made friends with a homeless person in North Carolina, and would I have normally talked to them? No. And we became friends, and but that was an uncomfortable position that I was in, and I just started talking to him and found, like, his whole life story. If he was getting married now, maybe he'd probably hire me for a wedding. Like, you just talk to people you wouldn't normally talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to every waiter that you have. Talk to every person outside. Yesterday there was a guy walking his dog, and I was like, hey, can you come hold this door for me? I'm carrying a 55-inch TV. He's like, yeah, no problem. Like, people are more likely to talk to you if you talk to them with an upbeat personality.
This is really good advice. Yeah, because there's this idea that, like, people are just one way, and they can't really, like, this is who I am. I'm not outgoing, or I'm really shy, or I'm introverted, or and the reality is that you can really evolve. Like, you can become whatever you want to become. Like, if you can become more outgoing. And I think this is great advice, because you just talk to more people. You just start talking to more people. You know,
doesn't have to be Bryce.
It could be anyone.
Neighbor, for God's sake. Like, I know every single person that lives in my building.
Right.
Every person. I know them by first name. I know where they're from. I know how many people live in their apartment. And some people are like, well, why do you know that? I'm like, because I talk to everybody. I'm getting mail. Hey, what apartment do you live in? Never met you before. And they're like, oh, like, I live right next to you. And you're like, great, like, let's have a wine and cheese night. And they're like, okay, boom, you got a friend.
Mm-hmm. And then when you start talking to somebody on social media, it's just like an extension of that. It's normal. It feels like I do this all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's actually like a pro tip for somebody. Like, if you feel really uncomfortable, like getting out of your comfort zone, like talking to people, maybe you've been shy your whole life. The reality of business, like if you want to grow a business, I think a lot of photographers think that like the work alone will do the booking for you. And it's really just, it's not the reality, right? You have to have the good work, but then it's also about business, interacting with people, building relationships. And that's just a skill, like Kayla's talking about, like anything else, and you get good at it by just doing it. And so I think for anybody who maybe feels a little uncomfortable in that way, just practice with your neighbors, practice with...
Literally, just start talking to everybody.
I think that's really, really useful, good advice. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, Kayla, just to wrap this up, this has been awesome. What's next for you? Like, What's the next? I mean, this is a big, you did 22K in 1 month. Like, what's the next horizon for you?
I don't know, I really like how this is going. I want to continue to do this. And I do want to get more travel weddings. And that's really hard right now with COVID. And so a lot of trips that I was going to take have been canceled. I've been trying to figure out ways to do them. So I am going on a road trip back to my old stomping grounds in North Carolina. But I have a wedding out there, so I'll be out there for a wedding. But I want to do less weddings, more income is what I want to do within the next year. Guys, don't get me wrong. I love doing weddings. I really do. But I want more of my ideal clients at a higher price point than accepting everyone, not everyone, but accepting more people and bargaining. Which I don't mind doing it. I don't, because I'm getting somewhere. I'm way further than I was last year. But I do want more ideal clients at a higher price point.
Yeah, I think it's time to raise your prices again.
I know.
It's time.
I know. I'm just not good at it.
It's just another one of those. It's just another one of those uncomfortable. It feels uncomfortable. You do it, and then it's your new normal. That's all it is.
I know. This is how I felt about adding people on Facebook.
It's just the same thing. So yeah, it's time to raise your prices and just more volume, more people coming in, and you'll be attracting. The more you post the work that you want to shoot with the couples you want to, the more it'll attract. And you just do more volume, more people coming in, more calls. You're there. We just keep going. That's it. Okay. Amazing. Well, Kayla, we're going to put this online, obviously. If anybody is looking for an amazing wedding photographer in the Iowa area or really anywhere, where's the best way for them to find you?
KaylaPhotography.com.
Awesome.
Or Kayla Palm Facebook.
You can just hit you up on Facebook, Kayla Palm. Kayla Palm, it's been awesome talking to you, and really looking forward to watching you continue to win. And with that, we'll speak soon.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Bye.
Bye.